Yeah.
Oh, benvenuti a tutti. Hi everybody. Hi.
Hello.
Eccoli. Benvenuti. Hi, benvenuti a Not Only Athlete International. Allora, saluto Stefano Tintoli, che è il mio traduttore solo per stasera. Is my translate. Solo per stasera, chiaramente, no? Perché fa anche altre cose nella vita, giustamente. Saluto Gaston Parage, presidente della Federazione Internazionale. Saluto Stefano Tiraboschi, che è il mio compagno di tutte queste live, e un saluto speciale ai miei ospiti, Natalie Hasson, Bryce Lewis, Joanna Reber e L.S. McLean. Ciao a tutti ragazzi, benvenuti in Italia. Spaghetti, mozzarella, amore mio, dicono negli Stati Uniti, giusto? Ok, allora iniziamo subito con i video vostri. Stefano, se vuoi tradurre, iniziamo subito con i vostri video e poi parliamo di tutti voi. Prima però voglio introdurli tutti i video, perché sono quattro video dei vostri campionati mondiali. Dillo Stefano.
Yeah, guys, welcome to the Not Only Athlete International. So we're gonna see some kind of highlight reels of yours, and then we can kind of chat. So let's go.
Let's go! Allora, iniziamo con Natalie Hasson. Eccola. Eccoci, e poi partiamo con Joanna Riber. Joanna Riber.
Squat. Tight. Get up. Hold it.
Silver off, black on.
Start. Press. Back. Yep. Hold it. Perfect.
Out of black. 1 and 5. Go to blue.
Tight back. Big air. Up. Squeeze. Squeeze it through. Yeah, hold. Perfect.
E L.S. McLean.
A lot of noise once they got here. Now, 282.5. This is going to really give us a good indication if we're starting to feel better.
Yep.
Yeah, and sometimes a bit of an adrenaline kick. All of a sudden the body starts feeling good again. that. Here's the head nod.
Nods his head.
And
We got it.
So 207.5 kilogram opener. I'm expecting this to move quite quickly. And it does.
Yep.
Ooh, just having a hard time locking out that left arm. But he gets it. 215 kilograms. It looks better than his opener.
It looked like not only for that world record, but he's found himself in the middle of the fight of his life with the Algerian.
Yeah, this is an important lift. This lift keeps him dead even with the Algerian. He missed this lift, and he's finding himself having to chase him down. And as you would expect from LS McLean, he fires when the pressure's on. And
Quick little conversation with himself, reaffirming.
he's talking himself up a little bit. Gets that to the top. Probably wasn't the smoothest we've seen him lift, but there certainly wasn't any problems with it. Here we go, 312.5. And he will be followed straight by the Algerian, so we'll know very fast where they're at. Gets it to the top. Had to work for it.
It's worked though, and LS gets it. Bigger, he's getting stronger. He's got to keep his foot on the gas for this last deadlift. It could be for the overall gold.
E poi, non per ultimo, Bryce Lewis. That's it.
The opener.
Obviously a phenomenal power lifter. You know, there's been a lot of hype around Blevins and where's Becky, but Bryce and Scream Emmanuel are right there with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice. And that's why.
Absolutely.
Total world records in this weight class, and he's definitely a contender in this race, and he cannot be overlooked.
No, he's dependable, and he gets the lift that's on the bar.
Yeah, and that's it. That's where he can creep up on you. Is he'll get those bars loaded up and get those 3 white lights carefully built. His total.
That's it.
Do not look past them.
15-kilogram jump.
Oh,
there you go.
Oh, he's a beautiful squatter.
Yeah.
He can get another 15
Good position.
for the bronze medal.
That's it.
Wowzers. Well,
So this is for the bronze.
Yeah, already we got. We're putting medals around necks. This is crazy.
And this is what we're saying. This is what Bryce does. Very quietly.
Yep.
Works away at it.
Fighting for the bronze medal.
He's got the bronze in this one.
You know what? Race is, but he's got a bigger bench than Christophe, so he's somewhat in the middle.
Okay, we've got import put it now. Mongolia 185 kilos on bar. Thank you. Bar loaded on 2.
Such a ruckus crowd right now.
Ruckus.
Oh, it's nice. Wow. Nice smooth opener.
He's Mr. Sneaky. He's got got a very seriously good deadlift on him.
You're not kidding.
And I tell you what, he's going to be there in the finish, in the wash-up at the end.
Let me throw this out there. Of the three of them, of the four of the guys in the 105 battle, he's probably the best rounded.
Yeah, all-rounder.
Yeah.
He's the all-rounder. And
He'll win a medal in all three.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, Lord!
Wow.
Oh, my God!
And there's Mr.
Yep, he's just getting on with business here.
Yeah, not missing attempts
No.
is going to be clutch for all these guys.
Yep. So this stage here for Silva, but he could get squeezed out depending on how Yang goes. Oh, that big chest gets to work. And he's
He got it.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Yes, ma'am, there is.
And I said it was his girlfriend. I beg your pardon. It's his wife, his beautiful wife up there in the crowd, front and center, calling out to him for every lift. Oh, he's solid throughout.
Yeah.
There he is. It's a flawless technique.
He's got plenty more in the tank, believe me.
So this is to hit the lead, and we know he's good for it, and he's good for more. So this is for the lead in total. Bryce, it's a big pull, but he's good for it.
Salute, telling him to make it an explosive tackle. And still, unfortunately, it's a no lift for
Bryce, come on! There he is!
Look how smooth that
Yeah,
looks.
that's smooth.
Very.
Ok, un po' lunghi questi filmati, ma meritavano, bravissimi atleti, meritavano. Allora io volevo prima di iniziare a parlare di loro, far parlare il presidente della federazione Gaston Parage, che ha delle cose da dire a voi atleti. Stefano, se vuoi tradurre in modo che poi Gaston inizi il suo discorso.
Yeah, so before we go with you guys, Mr. Gaston Parage, aka the IPF president, is gonna talk some and kind of introduce you.
So thank you for giving me the word. First of all, I want to welcome you all on this live stream. I want to say thanks to all of you that you take your time to be part of this. I think it is very important to make our sport more popular, and of course it is very good when we have our best lifters on our live streams so that the people can see who are our strong lifters. I said every time when the people not coming to us, then we must make sure that we bring our stars to the people, and this is what we have done with starting with streamings on our worlds, that we have now more than 1.5 million on our worlds watching powerlifting. I think this is great for our sport, and that is also what makes sure that our sport comes forward. I want to say thank you to Sonia for this good initiative together with Orsini. She and Sonia together have this initiative, and over many weeks now they already started with these live streams. I am really proud to see all these good lifters on our worlds, you making our worlds more and more exciting with these great lifts, what we have even seen now by promoting you. And this is what makes the sports more and more interesting. I remember times where we had the first place and the second place 100 kilo difference. That was not very exciting, but now we have really good lifters close to each other, what make, of course, the sport much more interesting when we see that each other of you have to fight for the medals. So I want to congratulate all of you for this great results you are doing, for this excitement we have with you. And I wish everybody of you and your families Happy New Year. It was a sad year for us. It was the baddest history in our history. We have done a lot of new history in our sport to bringing our sport forward, where we are trying a lot of goals to be in the university FISU recognized. We have now soon an MOU with the Blind Federation, with IPSA. So you see that we are working to bring all the powerlifters together, because powerlifting is a sport for all. Everybody can do this sport, and that it's our benefit what we have. And I hope that also the IOC will recognize it one day, because we have made a tremendous job to make sure that we fulfill all requirements from the IOC, and we do. But it's now just politics, and of course, I am now behind the people, and I say it's enough now to every time coming with excuse left and excuse right. We are now in 2 years, 50 years old or young, and that would be, of course, a nice birthday present for us when we will be recognized for our 15th anniversary.
Right.
So if we will be next year, it will be better. But if we will be 22, I'm happy with that as well. Important is that we could reach this goal. So thank you, everybody. Wish all of you and your families Happy New Year. And I hope that next year, soon, we will meet again each other on our worlds. That's why we postponed it immediately on the second half, to make sure that this time we have not to cancel our words. So let's cross the fingers, and thank you all of you. Bye-bye, and enjoy your live stream.
Thank you.
Thank you. Grazie Gastone, auguri anche a te e buon anno. Poi te li farò ancora prima di domani, va bene?
Sì. Grazie. Ciao
Ciao
ciao.
Gastone,
Bye-bye.
grazie al Presidente della Federazione. E ora iniziamo la live streaming, iniziamo con le prime domande, ragazzi. Ok, ci siamo. Allora, prime domande. Da che sport ne arrivate? Se l'avete fatto prima in precedenza, ok? E come avete fatto ad approdare ed arrivare al powerlifting? Stefano, le domande sono per tutti, ok? Quindi chi vuole iniziare poi random, non è un problema.
Okay, so that's a question for all of you. So, what did you do before powerlifting? What kind of sports you were practicing before getting to lifting? Any one of you can start.
I'm curious about Joanna.
Joanna.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was a gymnast when I was a lot younger. So from the ages of about 5 until 15, I was a competitive gymnast. And then after that, I did a lot of coaching. And I really didn't delve into any other sports until I was in my 30s. And I had a very brief foray into bodybuilding. I did one bodybuilding show. And although I'd always gone to the gym, that was really my first introduction into barbell lifts. And that's what I fell in love with. I didn't really like the stage portion of the bodybuilding, but I really, really enjoyed lifting heavy weights. And I think because of my gymnastics background, I was good at it from an early stage, which of course always makes it easier to enjoy something. And that's what introduced me to powerlifting.
Ok. Stefano, se poi vuoi tradurre man mano che andiamo avanti, così.
Certo, sostanzialmente Joanna è partita dalla ginnastica e fino a 30 anni non ha praticato altro. Poi passati 30 anni si è avvicinata un attimo al mondo del bodybuilding e successivamente poi all'allenamento con il bilanciere, appassionandosi sempre di più al bilanciere e sempre meno alla parte, diciamo, da palcoscenico del bodybuilding.
Okay.
E quindi da lì è nata la sua passione per il powerlifting.
Ok, tanti ginnasti fanno quello. Ce ne sono parecchi che dalla ginnastica arrivano al powerlifting e hanno tra l'altro delle buonissime attitudini e peculiarità sportive, perché no? Sono già solo per la mobilità articolare. Allora, Natalie and Bryce, and you?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I played basketball and volleyball my whole life. I played volleyball until I was 22, and then started doing CrossFit just because I needed a competitive outlet. So I did CrossFit for 3 years and really just gravitated to the heavy lifting part of it. So I always complained that workouts weren't heavy enough and there was too much gymnastics and too much running. So then someone was like, well, why don't you just do the lifting? And I was like, that's a thing? I can do that? And so I started just competing in powerlifting in 2012 and gave up the rest of it.
I'll let Stefano translate that so I don't have to overload his memory.
Okay.
All right, we are alone. We can do whatever we want.
Right, the cats are waiting. Mice will play.
Allora,
iniziamo a tradurre magari quello che ha detto Natalie.
Sorry, è andata giù la linea. My live streaming is down. Oh my God. Ok, Stefano, vuoi tradurmi, Ioana?
Certo.
Scusami, Natalie, per piacere, grazie.
Natalie da giovane ha sempre ha giocato sia a pallacanestro che a pallavolo finché poi non si è avvicinata al CrossFit. Ha praticato CrossFit per 3 anni, dopodiché si è accorta che comunque era più affascinata alla parte pesante, cioè la parte del bilanciere per quanto riguarda il CrossFit, e poi ha scoperto che c'era uno sport che trattava solo la parte del bilanciere e quindi c'era troppa ginnastica, troppo contorno del CrossFit e si è buttata nel powerlifting dal 2012.
Ok, Bryce, you?
Yeah, for me, I started playing volleyball in high school, and I played volleyball in college for a few years after that. I really enjoyed it. I was a setter, and I liked to jump high, and it was a fast-paced game and lots of teamwork. And then I did bodybuilding for a few years after that. So I did natural bodybuilding for about 3 years. And then much like Joanna, I liked the heavy lifting aspect more than getting up on stage. Plus the dieting for half of the year is not that fun. And so I switched to powerlifting, and I like it a lot more.
Yeah. Bryce è partito anche lui dalla pallavolo, sia per quanto riguarda quando era al liceo che poi anche al college. E dopodiché era abbastanza appassionato al salto in alto, cioè gli piaceva saltare in alto, ed è entrato un attimo anche poi nel mondo del natural bodybuilding specificato per un paio d'anni, però come Natalie era più affascinato alla parte di sollevamento pesi, e quindi poi esatto, si è spostato sul powerlifting anche per un discorso di dieta che non doveva essere così serrata come nel bodybuilding.
Sì. Else, you?
I did American football and track and field, and had my hand in cheerleading. Those are my sports. Which I guess I had a piece of that gymnastics for a little bit. I mean, in terms of the cheerleading portion, I had to do a little bit of gymnastics, but I mean, you have to have some degree of flexibility and durability, which I didn't necessarily in order to be a top level gymnast. So I definitely stuck with the football and the track and field, and I did all that all the way through university and took it to a little pro level for a little bit, and those are my sports. And found powerlifting once I was done with all of it. So I'm here now. There you go.
All right. Lui invece è partito dal football e dall'atletica in generale, track and field, e quindi poi si è avvicinato alla ginnastica del cheerleading in particolare, e quindi da lì poi l'allenamento della flessibilità e della forza l'ha indirizzato sempre di più verso il powerlifting.
Ok, allora altre domande che mi hanno, se vuoi specificare, che sono domande che mi hanno fatto degli atleti qua della federazione italiana. È importante dire che queste domande non solo le faccio io direttamente, ma sono un po' miste in base anche alle richieste che mi fanno, ok? Quindi che lavoro fanno e se riescono a, come posso dire, inserire il mondo del loro lavoro nello sport, cioè riescono ad allenarsi, ad arrivare a questi livelli così alti, no? Facendo dei mondiali, eccetera, quindi facendo delle preparazioni mirate, però col lavoro che fanno, soprattutto se alcuni di loro non fanno, cioè il loro lavoro non è nello sport, quindi completamente diverso.
Okay, so guys, here's a couple questions from the Italian powerlifting audience, so athlete, coaches, and stuff like that. So, what is your job? Do you work with powerlifting, or do you do something else? And how can you kind of mix the thing together to be competing at so much high level? Is it hard? Is it easy? How do you manage that?
Joanna.
Okay.
Just,
well, as you can tell from my outfit, I work in the operating room, so I'm a physician anesthesiologist. So I do not work in powerlifting. Powerlifting, I kind of consider it my other life. So I work in the operating room. The hours are highly variable and unpredictable. I often work evenings, nights, long shifts, short shifts. So I think for me, balance is a huge issue. I rarely have optimal training conditions. I rarely have days where I can plan my training around an optimal night's sleep or an optimal day's nutrition, because that just isn't doable most days in my life. So I just make it work. I think if you want to do something bad enough and it's important enough to you and brings enough enjoyment into your life, then you make it work. So for me, it's a lot of scheduling. I kind of look at my week and I pick which days are going to be optimal for training. And when I say optimal, it probably wouldn't be optimal for most people, but it is the most optimal that I can make it. So I often train, after I've been at work from 7 until 5, I've come home, dealt with my kids, thrown some food into my face, and then I go and train. So like I said, I make it work because I want to do it and it's important to me. And I fit it in when I can. And I probably choose not to do other things so that I can get my training done. Not that anyone's doing a whole lot these days anyway with COVID, but I don't go out often. You won't see me watching a lot of Netflix or television. It is important to me, so I make sacrifices in other areas of my life so that I can get it done.
All right, thank you, Joanna. Lei, da come si può notare dal suo outfit, fa l'anestesista in sala operatoria. Quindi diciamo che non ha dei ritmi di vita abbastanza compatibili con il powerlifting, perché comunque ha degli orari molto vari che la portano a lavorare di notte, turni sostanzialmente. Quindi il suo equilibrio riesce a trovarlo semplicemente con la forza di volontà, nel senso che le piace fare powerlifting, vuole farlo, e anche se ha un orario, cioè se spesso arriva a casa dopo un turno lavorativo abbastanza lungo, riesce comunque a allenarsi dopo aver visto i figli, quindi questa volontà c'è molto forte ed è comunque accompagnata a una sorta di rinuncia ad altre cose, nel senso che non esce particolarmente tanto, la sera non guarda Netflix, cose del genere, perché è molto concentrata sull'allenamento.
Giusto, ecco, allora se me la puoi tradurre questa cosa, ora la dico. Vorrei ricordare ai ragazzi giovani che vedono questa live streaming, che non alleno solo io, penso in generale anche Stefano, tutti quelli che in questa live fanno gli istruttori, che come vedete riusciamo a andare in una sala operatoria, avere dei figli e allenarci e poi avere anche dei titoli mondiali. Cioè non è così, è difficile arrivarci perché sono mosche bianche, però magari il percorso si può fare. Ok, se vuoi tradurle questa cosa, perché è importantissima per me che capiscano anche che il sacrificio ne vale anche la pena, direi, no? Visto che parliamo comunque di ragazzi di 20 anni. Vai.
Yeah, Sonia is like talking to the young guys, Italian guys in powerlifting who are struggling with all the busy schedule, to see you as like a role model, because you work in a surgery room, you have kids and stuff like that, but you always find time to train and to compete at such much high level like championship, world championship. So it's kind of directing this your message to the young guys.
Ok, va bene? It's not difficult, guys. It's not difficult. Ok. Detto questo, Natalie and Bryce. Natalie.
I work in the renewable energy industry. I develop renewable energy projects in rural Alaska. So my job is not in powerlifting. I am a powerlifting coach, but it's like nights and weekends. And during the day, I run a nonprofit. So like Joanna, I think it's just making it work. And I would honestly argue that it's probably like a better situation for your mental health to not work and play in powerlifting, to have a more diverse kind of life and experience, because then when you're training, and when you're working, and those two identities can remain mostly separate. And I think that allows you just a better headspace around your training. So I've been working in this industry since I got out of graduate school 6 years ago, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Ok, cool. Anche lei non lavora nel settore del powerlifting, ma lavora in una compagnia di sviluppo di energia, in un progetto di sviluppo energetico in Alaska. Però ci teneva a sottolineare che secondo lei è molto più facile fare un lavoro fuori dal powerlifting e applicarsi poi nel powerlifting che essere 24 ore su 24. Esatto, proprio ha parlato proprio di salute mentale, però sostanzialmente di...
Sono d'accordo.
Pure io sono molto d'accordo.
Sono molto d'accordo perché stiamo diventando fuori di testa. Cioè,
esatto.
Ha ragione. Diglielo che ha ragione.
Yeah, we both, Sonia and I, we agree with you. We train, we work in powerlifting, so we are absolutely right that mental health is gonna benefit from working outside powerlifting, and that's it. All right.
Right.
Well, exactly the opposite of the two cases. My life revolves around powerlifting. I started a company back in 2013, coaching powerlifters, and we aim to do the best we can and deliver athletes to the best of their goals, whether they are beginners or advanced athletes like Joanna here, who works with one of the coaches that I work with. And it's been a pleasure. Certainly there are challenges. Early on, I had to learn to separate myself as a coach from myself as an athlete, and leave my coaching outside of the gym, which is really, really important. And just kind of create boundaries where they didn't really exist. And that was not an easy process, but certainly much better now. So yeah, that's kind of what I do outside as far as work is concerned.
Ok, praticamente Bryce invece è il contrario, nel senso che lui lavora nel powerlifting come allenatore, sia per principianti che per agonisti. Comunque nel mondo dei pesi è il suo lavoro, e è riuscito nel tempo a trovare una sorta di equilibrio in cui riesce comunque a lasciare tutta la parte del lavoro, dell'allenamento fuori comunque da certi momenti della sua giornata.
Vita.
Esatto.
È anche giusto. Allora, McLean.
Okay, well, for my job, I don't even know do you consider cheerleading coach a day job? You know what? Yes, it is. I do with a lot of personalities. But yeah, my day job pretty much evolves around just coaching cheerleading and advising on a university level, and of course, just making sure that my 80+ athletes are on their proper academic track, as well as being able to be productive cheerleaders and spirit leaders of our university and community. And so that's pretty much my day job. Slowly but surely, the powerlifting coaching side of my life is starting to take a greater portion of my time. But again, kind of leaning into what Joanna and Natalie said, that clear separation from, you know, the powerlifting portion of your life and the other portions of your life, that's an absolute must. It has to happen. And so honestly, I've been able, honestly, from watching Bryce, because, you know, he's had a coaching company for so many years now. I've been able to kind of watch how he's a master at being able to separate and compartmentalize in terms. So I've been really, you know, lucky in that all my friends, you know, that I look up to, I can kind of follow the example. Okay, cool. So these hours are for me. All right, cool. I'll do that. So my life is you know, much like that of a madman in terms of, you know, I go from one end of coaching a lot of young women, making sure that they're on the right path, and then going to coach a lot of young men that refuse to stay on the right path. So it's great. So at the end of the day, man, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, those are my jobs.
Ok. Lui è partito con una considerazione che non sa se fare il coach di cheerleader può considerarsi un vero lavoro o meno.
Non è un lavoro! It's not work!
Però per lui lo è. Lo è, e anche se in realtà l'80% del suo tempo lo passa a constatare che comunque le sue atlete, i suoi atleti siano al passo dal punto di vista accademico, perché nell'università comunque se non performi in classe non puoi performare poi sul campo. Per quanto riguarda il powerlifting, comunque è una parte molto grossa della sua vita, anche lavorativa, e infatti invidia un po' Bryce per il suo riuscire a orchestrarsi bene nel contesto lavorativo e personale nell'ambito powerlifting.
Ecco, tra l'altro, se vuoi, così non è una domanda ma un'affermazione, se vuoi dire a McLean, perché parlava dell'università che danno anche delle borse di studio per quanto riguarda lo sport, giusto, negli Stati Uniti, puoi dirglielo Stefano? Se anche nel cheerleading è così.
Okay, LS Sonia is asking if in cheerleading sports in the US you can kind of get some kind of scholarship in the university or not?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few actually. It's, you know, I mean, with a lot of the sports, much like powerlifting, as the popularity of cheerleading has grown, there's starting to be more financial opportunities for young men and women that are coming out of high school, out of grade schools, in order to, you know, continue the education, you know, if they can't afford it on their own. So there's quite a few universities around the junior college, for that matter, around the nation that offer, you know, financial aid, full scholarships. So their school can be completely paid for, you know, just, you know, by being a great cheerleader and of course having great academic standing. At our particular university, we do so. We offer scholarships and financial aid, and a lot of you know, we cover a lot of costs for a lot of young men and women that we have coming in. You know, if they're qualified, number one, and two, obviously they have to be, you know, a pretty good athlete. So it's a very, 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 very competitive sport. So I mean, there's over 3 million cheerleaders in the United States alone, and there's only so many, you know, scholarships that are available at these universities. So, and it just keeps growing, obviously, as they get older. So, and usually when you get to the college level, it's probably at the height in terms of the competition level, because there is no level after college, after university. So there's quite a few young men and women that are competing for those very few scholarships that are, you know, around the nation. And because you can only have, you know, I think per team you can have maybe up to 40, maybe 50 scholarships, if that. So, you know, you got to think you have 3 million people compete for, you know, maybe, you know, 15,000 scholarships pretty much around the world. I mean, around the universities. So yeah, it's fairly competitive. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're qualified enough, there's quite a few scholarship opportunities out there for young men and women that are trying to get into the universities.
Ok, thank you. Sostanzialmente sì, nel senso che ci sono borse di studio come per qualsiasi altro sport negli Stati Uniti. Sono borse di studio full, nel senso che coprono tutte le spese, esattamente come qualsiasi altro sport, e ci sono circa 3 milioni di studenti atleti che praticano cheerleading negli Stati Uniti.
Chissà se le danno anche per il powerlifting, sarebbe L'ideale, non lo so.
Se voglio, questa è una domanda interessante da fargli.
E allora gliela facciamo magari dopo, così, però teniamocela in caldo sta domanda, Ste. Allora,
me la segno.
Segnatela, perché sennò poi sai che io sono anziana e mi dimentico. Allora, un'altra cosa, altra domanda, un attimo, intanto vi salutano. Massimiliano Buccioni è un grandissimo atleta a livello nazionale che ha fatto gare internazionali nel GIAR. Dillo, Stefano, perché così...
Yeah. So as you can see, Massimiliano Buccioni is saying hi. He's one of the top equipped athlete in Italy.
E poi abbiamo Simona Cati, anche lei atleta, che vuole fare una domanda. Sonia, puoi chiedere a livello alimentare se sono seguiti o hanno comunque un certo tipo di alimentazione loro?
Yeah, a question from Simona is there someone who's following you as long as the diet part, or you kind of eat something to stay on track, or it's like go and eat whatever you want?
Joanna?
Okay, so I don't track my food or my macros or follow any kind of special diet. That's a bit of a complicated question for me. I had eating disorder issues when I was much, much younger, when I was a gymnast. So I've kind of always veered away from doing that. And like Bryce mentioned, the dieting and bodybuilding was horrible. And I really don't enjoy restricting my food because I feel like I spent too many years doing that. Right. That being said, I am careful, especially around meat time. I'm lucky that I live fairly close to my weight class. So I try and eat reasonably and nutritionally sound, and obviously closer to a meat, I'm even more careful about making sure I'm eating enough protein and keeping my weight in track for meat time. Also, because of my job, it's very difficult for me to eat at regular intervals. So there's some days where I might go 6 to 7 hours without being able to eat or drink, which also makes it difficult if you're trying to meal plan. So, I mean, the real answer is no, I don't track. I don't have anyone that looks after my nutrition, but I am cognizant of it for the most part, especially around training and meets.
Ok, Joanna praticamente non ha un piano alimentare particolare, nessuno la segue a livello alimentare, soprattutto perché ha avuto dei disturbi alimentari quando era un po' più giovane e nella sua fase di bodybuilding ha proprio sofferto i lati negativi di questa cosa. Diciamo che comunque cerca di tenere un apporto proteico opportuno per lo sport che fa, però proprio il lavoro anche che fa non la mette in condizione di essere particolarmente precisa dal punto di vista alimentare.
Certo, perché per gli orari, insomma. Natalie!
Yes, I have a nutritionist. I work with a nutritionist. I eat mostly a plant-based diet now. I have some dairy and protein shakes, but mostly plant-based protein sources. I guess that's my answer. I track what I eat, and most of the year, and I've gone years where I didn't track very closely, and I just find that I tend to perform better when I'm keeping a close eye on it. And as long as my relationship with food stays manageable, then I'm okay.
Ok, thank you. Lei invece ha un nutrizionista che la segue e in realtà ha una dieta prettamente vegetariana che comunque integra con dei frullati proteici, però comunque si rende conto che quando è seguita da un nutrizionista è molto più performante rispetto a quando non lo è.
Quindi lei carne non ne mangia?
So Natalie, you don't eat meat basically.
Now it's very recent.
Però fa chili, fa un sacco di chili, diglielo.
Yeah, Sonia is.
Why?
Sonia,
Why?
She's surprised of how you can make how you can lift so much weight without eating meat.
There's lots of other sources of protein.
Ci sono altre fonti di proteine.
I fagioli? I fagioli?
She's asking about beans.
Beans. Really? Ok. I'm jogging, Ok. Allora, vi salutano Fabio Meazza, un altro powerlifter, national powerlifter. Ciao! Vi saluta Ivano Giusti, che è stato non solo un powerlifter, ma anche fa parte del comitato sportivo degli arbitri e dei giudici nazionali, se glielo vuoi dire. Good evening and happy.
Yeah, Ivano Giusti is saying hi to you, and Ivano is one of the best athletes back in the days, one of the commissioners in the FIPL Federation.
That's awesome.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay, great. And you? You meet you eat meat?
I do. I love meat.
Prosciutto, sto scherzando. Ok.
Yeah. I'm in bodybuilding. You have to track your nutrition very closely, and I'm happy to have gone through that period because I feel like it taught me a lot of lessons about how to be a better powerlifter. I feel like back in the 1990s and earlier, there was just an attitude in powerlifting of just eat as much as you can. You know, cheeseburgers, French fries, it doesn't matter. Just eat as much as you can.
Right.
And thankfully, things have changed now, and there's a smarter, more science-based approach. And I'm thankful for bodybuilding for getting me through that. And now, out the other side, I don't track nutrition as closely, but I aim to have 3 to 5 meals per day with a source of protein at each one. And if I don't have a source of protein at each meal, it's very hard for me to hit my goals at the end of the day, and
Sore.
And I get very sore. So for me in training, protein intake and enough water and enough sleep are very important. But yeah, I want all athletes to kind of go through a period of tracking because you learn about portion sizes and you learn about what's in the food that you eat and how much protein is in things. But at some point, abandoning the numbers.
Ok, thank you. Lui invece la carne gli piace e la mangia, però comunque il suo periodo nel bodybuilding l'ha avvicinato a un approccio un po' più scientifico all'alimentazione, che magari adesso non segue così in maniera stretta, però consiglia a chiunque di passare in un periodo del genere, perché comunque impari tanto dal tuo corpo e da cosa mangi. Inoltre sottolinea come il sonno sia una parte importante oltre all'alimentazione per quanto riguarda essere performanti in questo sport.
McLean.
Yes, I'm probably the most undisciplined of us four. That being said, because the university I work at, we're under athletics, of course, and so we have a dietitian on staff. So I'm able to consult with her quite a bit in terms of my my nutrition or lack thereof here lately. And then, of course, I've been very blessed to have one of my athletes is actually a nutrition coach. So I pretty much hired him. And so we've been doing a lot of experimentation in terms of a lot like weight gain and just kind of seeing how my body, I know how my body loses weight. So, now the thing is we want to figure out how my body gains weight. So I've been able to kind of yo-yo a little bit and kind of, toy around with my weight and allow it to fluctuate to see what I know what my extremities in terms of my lows are. But again, like Bryce said, the longer you're in the sport, the more you want to you have to realize like what your ceiling and what your floor is in terms of your nutrition levels. So we've kind of figured out what my ceiling is, and so now I'm able to really have a plan in terms of my nutrition a lot more than I was before. I think it's very important to have the ability to acquire as much information about your body and what it's able to do and what it's not able to do in terms of nutrition. And so for me, having a nutrition coach, having a dietitian on staff to help me kind of stay in my lane nutrition wise, it's for me it's going to be a lifesaver because I'm a middle-aged black man. You know what I mean? And so genetically, you know, if I don't do it right, I'm not going to be here around. I'm not going to be around longer. It's been really, really nice to kind of see, you know, the lows and highs in what my body's been able to do in terms of adaptation just with nutrition. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, to answer the question, yes, I have a nutrition coach and I have a dietitian.
Ok, praticamente lui si ritiene il più indisciplinato probabilmente tra tutti qua dentro, sicuramente non indisciplinato quanto me, però tra gli atleti qua dentro è il più indisciplinato, però comunque nel suo staff all'università c'è un nutrition coach, un nutrizionista che comunque lo aiuta e si è reso conto che a questo suo punto della carriera, che comunque non è più un giovincello, ma comincia a essere un atleta un po' più avanzato, fa tantissimo la differenza, perché comunque il fattore genetico arriva fino a un certo punto, accompagnarlo a un ottimo piano alimentare è quello che poi fa la differenza.
La differenza. Ok, allora io volevo dare la parola a Stefano Tiraboschi e far fare delle domande a Stefano, che ci accompagna e mi accompagna ormai da mesi in queste live streaming. Stefano, se vuoi appunto tradurre questa cosa, e poi insomma Tiraboschi, ti chiamo di cognome perché sennò mi confondo, appunto, e poi partirai con la domanda.
Okay, so guys, Stefano Tiraboschi, which is the co-host of this streaming, is going to ask you some questions.
Awesome. I didn't know if he's going to say anything. Yes, I'm excited. I didn't know. I thought he was like, he's like the supervisor. But you know what? I like that.
Yeah, he was just here to staring at you.
Yeah, I just see this big man staring at me. I didn't know.
Vai Stefano, che ti vogliono sentire parlare.
Ma io volevo chiedere qual era il loro approccio mentale alla gara, diciamo, al giorno della gara, se è più una ricerca di calma o se è un approccio più adrenalinico, come la vivono, insomma.
So the question for all of you is, what's your mental approach to a meeting? Are you more kind of focused guy or kind of chilled? What's going on in your mind during a meet? Let's go, Joanna.
Okay, I'll go first again.
You are first.
Okay, so I am generally very calm during a meet. That doesn't mean I'm not anxious, but you know, someone once told me to know your number, you know, between 1 and 10, and what level of hype you function best at a meet. And I'm definitely, you know, between 4 and 6. If I go above like the 6, I just don't perform well. And I don't know if part of that is, you know, carryover from my job where we have to be calm under pressure and that's how we perform well. But for me, I'm definitely more of a chill, calm person. You won't find me jumping around or screaming before or after lifts even. Yeah, so that's me.
Ok. Lei è molto calma, comunque dal lavoro che fa è abituata a avere comunque dei livelli di stress alti, per cui un meeting di powerlifting, una gara di powerlifting non è poi chissà che roba che ti stravolge la vita, quindi tende ad essere molto molto calma durante una gara.
Natalie, you?
I think outwardly I appear more calm than I am, similar to Joanna. I'm a pretty intense competitor, but I'm not very expressive. So the most expression you'll see me is like laughing and smiling after making a lift. And that's more like a sense of relief rather than, you know, much of anything. But yeah, I would say that I don't know. Bryce might have something to add there, but mostly keep to myself in a lot of ways.
Ok.
But I also don't have a lot of self-awareness when it comes to competing, too, so I might be totally wrong.
Ok. Lei, se da fuori sembra molto calma, in realtà dentro la soffre molto di più. però comunque all'esterno è comunque sorrisi e scherzi, quando magari la sente un pochettino di più rispetto a Joanna, rispetto all'interno comunque.
Ok, quindi è un po' più ansiogena, però non lo vuol far vedere. Bryce!
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm somewhat similar to these other two in that I'm very, very excited when I compete on the inside. And then on the outside, you don't see a whole lot. I will say when I finish a big lift, it's very exciting. Yeah. And so I let myself feel that fully after like a big squat or a big deadlift. But in especially these days, now that, you know, I'm competing at the national and international level, the competitions are so challenging and there's so much on the line that you have to just like control your mind so much and not let the crowd or other people who you're competing against, or, you know, a missed lift or something like that get in the way of your performance. So I almost am a little bit more robotic until after everything is done, and then you can celebrate a little bit more.
Yeah, it's really important to control yourself until you're done with the final attempt. So if it's the third attempt or the ninth attempt, but that's a really important piece to learn as you develop as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anche lui è comunque molto emotivo all'interno, ma all'esterno tende a essere molto freddo, molto concentrato. Magari dopo qualche big lift, qualche alzata di cui è particolarmente casato, fa trasparire qualche emozione, però in generale è molto concentrato sul finire la gara nel miglior modo possibile, perché comunque cerca di essere concentrato, di controllare la testa il più possibile, perché prima fai il dovere e poi ti godi i risultati.
Okay. Quindi spettacolarizza meno rispetto a altri powerlifter, glielo puoi chiedere?
Yeah, Sonia is saying, so basically you, Bryce, is you are not so much a showman, but you're like a man in mission, and then when you get some achieving, you're kind of celebrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Bryce is an absolute assassin when it comes to performance. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like there's not a lot of gamers, you know what I mean, that show up meet time. Like, you've got to be ready to rock when Bryce is on the platform. Like, he's not one to miss. Bryce doesn't miss. And so
LS is the world's biggest hype man. So
it's the truth. You forget those 93 days, man. It was like you don't miss when Bryce Lewis is on the platform. That's the dumbest thing to ever do, because he doesn't miss.
It's true.
So
yeah, he got eyes on the prize.
Say again.
Yeah, he's got his eyes on the prize, and then we'll see.
Always.
We talk about later.
But I mean, at the end of the day, that's why he's so successful. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to be. Obviously, this is an execution-based, sport. So if you don't execute, you're not going to win. You're not even going to be in contention. I mean, so Bryce has really, perfected the art of making attempts and smart attempt selection. And it's not, nothing that Bryce does is an accident. You'll get a lot of guys that go in there like thinking, I'm going to do this and that, and they don't have a plan. You'll be hard pressed to ever see Bryce Lewis going to any meet without a plan, and a plan behind that plan, and a plan behind that plan. So, I mean, that's why he's so successful. That's why he's on this podcast right now. He's very successful. He's a silent assassin when it comes to competition. And then you'll see the patent that, and he'll drop to his knees because he's just murdered everybody. So year after year after year after year. It's awesome.
So LS praticamente sottolinea come sia proprio l'essere calmo, l'essere strategico, l'essere preciso di Bryce che lo ha portato così in alto. Perché comunque è uno che calcola tutto, non va a fare una gara così alla rinfusa. Esatto. E proprio questa precisione, questa attenzione ai dettagli l'ha portato anche a questo blog, quindi anche un complimento a questa trasmissione, quindi un complimento per te.
È vero, anche per me, bene. Grande Bryce! Allora, McLean! And you?
I'm just a happy lifter. I don't have a...
You are a showman!
I don't know if I'm a showman. I just
you are a showman.
I just honestly, I mean, I don't necessarily. I'm not like a. I don't come with a lot of machismo. I don't think I'm better than anybody. By the time I get to a meet, I'm so excited to be there. I mean, because you're putting at minimum, 8 to 16 weeks of just hard training, and by the time you get to that meet, I'm just excited to be there, and to be able to perform at a high level, to be able to perform, at a world-class level still, that's, for me, it's exciting. So I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily hold back my emotions, but I don't necessarily go in like super high, like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I go and enjoy it. So, I'm smiling, I'm laughing, I'm joking, because that's my personality. That's how I train. And again, you'd be hard. Again, I think you'll be hard pressed to find any one of these competitors that are on the screen right now that don't go and compete the same way they train. I doubt you're going to see Joanna going around like punching people and throwing stuff all over the place, and then all of a sudden get to the meet doing something completely different. You're not going to see Bryce headbutting the wall and all that stuff. Like it just doesn't happen. And the same thing with Natalie. Like they just the one thing that I've learned over the years is you can, if you bring the same package that you put together in training, if you bring that to the platform, you can't change who you are when you're on the platform. It just it's not gonna work for you, And so I learned that early. So I joke and I crack jokes. I mean, and I've trained with Bryce a few times, over the years. And I mean, and the same way I compete is the same way I train. I'm just cracking jokes, laughing, you know what I mean? And I cheer for my competitors because I cheer for my guys that I'm training with when I'm training. So yeah, I don't necessarily think I'm a super crazy, competitor. I just have a lot of fun. So you're gonna get me laughing, you're gonna get me cracking jokes, you're gonna get me, giving people high fives and cracking jokes with the judges, yelling at the crowd. It is what it is. They talk to me, I talk back. I don't know. Let's have a lot of fun.
Amen to that. Bryce invece ha un approccio molto più rilassato, ma proprio rilassato nel senso che si diverte parecchio, perché comunque lui quando prepara una gara viene dalle 8 alle 16 settimane di preparazione, quindi è lì proprio per godersi la gara, godersi l'esperienza, e inoltre è abbastanza convinto che comunque quello che tu sei in allenamento si riflette poi in come affronti la gara. Se tu in allenamento sei uno che si diverte, fa battute, ha sempre una parola per tutti, in gara non sarai tanto diverso. Ha fatto l'esempio di Joanna, che comunque in gara non è che arriva tanto diversa da quello che fa in allenamento e prende a pugni le persone, è molto tranquilla, fa la sua gara e si diverte. Lui è abituato in allenamento a divertirsi e quindi per lui la gara è la sublimazione dell'allenamento.
Quindi insomma diciamo che come siamo poi rispecchiamo quello che siamo nel momento in cui facciamo un'alzata in gara. Allora, altra domanda che volevo fare, è Fabio Meazza che la voleva fare a Bryce, però in realtà la voglio fare un po' a tutti, perché non è una brutta domanda, insomma non è solo concentrata a Bryce, però Fabio voleva farla a lui. Per lo stacco sumo, no? Voleva sapere, per avere maggiore transfer su un'alzata di stacco sumo, perché lo stacco sumo abbiamo visto che è la sua, diciamo, specialità, ok? Di tutte le tre, che complementari fa che hanno questo transfer sull'alzata e in che frequenza fa squat e stacco? Io vorrei un po', insomma, anche il discorso della frequenza un po' per tutti, non solo per Bryce. Però se vuoi insomma tradurmela questa domanda che la fa Fabio Meazza. Ciao Fabio. Vai Stefano.
Okay, so Fabio is asking you, Bryce in particular, but to all of the athletes, as long as you are a very good sumo deadlifter, what kind of accessory work do you do to help your deadlift, and what kind of training frequency do you have during the week?
Okay. These days I'm deadlifting once per week, but I do well with also twice a week with one hard day and one easier day for more technique work. As for accessories for my deadlift, lots of direct quad work. So things like leg press and leg extension and belt squat, and then lots of back work as well. So pull downs and rows and even low back work as well. I've tried some other like close deadlift exercises like a block pull or pause deadlift or deadlift with chains, but I don't think those really helped me all that much. So if you have pretty good technique on the deadlift, likely you can just use the deadlift to continue to get better at deadlifting. So more practice with sport form and then just building bigger muscles.
Ok. Lui in questo momento si trova bene con una seduta di stacco da terra a settimana, anche se in realtà non ha trovato comunque benefici a farne due, di cui una pesante e una leggera. Per quanto riguarda i complementari, lui fa della leg press e della leg extension, ha fatto in passato tipo dello stacco dei blocchi o comunque delle catene, delle varianti, però non ne ha trovato così tanto i benefici.
Ok, invece vorrei, insomma, a tutti quanti, visto che questo era specifico per il sumo, ma secondo loro, per avere una buona alzata, cioè quindi avere un buon transfert su tutte le alzate, che sia squat, che panca, che stacco, i complementari, secondo loro, sono fondamentali?
Yeah, so this is a question for all of you guys. How much is accessory work important in your training life, in your training for competing in powerlifting?
Joanna.
Well, I don't do my own programming, so I can't really answer questions specific to how to program accessories, but I always do my accessories. I think it's important in terms of building muscle and just keeping your body balanced as well, and keeping other parts of your body strong that you don't necessarily directly use if you're just doing the 3 lifts by themselves. And also just from an aesthetic point of view, if people are somewhat interested in how they look aesthetically, just keeping everything balanced and keeping everything healthy. So unless I'm injured in a specific way, I never skip my accessory work.
Ok, so lei non segue la sua parte di allenamento, lei è allenata e quindi lei esegue solo quello che funziona, quello che gli dicono di fare sostanzialmente. Okay. Quindi non ha molto a cui pensare per quanto riguarda i complementari. Comunque si rende conto che soprattutto uscendo da un infortunio diventano abbastanza importanti, perché comunque servono a recuperare e a lavorare nei punti in cui c'è bisogno.
Sì, volevo un po' sfatare alcune cose che sento anche sul web, hai capito? Io sono dell'idea che i complementari non servono solo al transfert, ma servono anche a creare muscolazione pronta e preparata. Il corpo deve essere condizionato per fare delle alzate. Se lo vuoi tradurre questo, che sennò sembra che parlo a vuoto da sola.
Yeah, Sonia is thinking that, however, the accessory work is very useful for building strength in general, and to have a transfer in powerlifting, especially in someone who's not very genetically gifted. So you have to train some kind of accessory work to kind of fill the gap.
Okay, Natalie.
Okay, this is my last one, and then I have to go. I would echo what Joanna said, that making sure you do your accessories for not just because of the direct transfer to power lifts like immediately, but more just to maintain your physical health and a more balanced balance in your body. I think that's really the most important thing. It sometimes is hard though, because we do a long training session of squatting and benching and deadlifting, and then you get to the end of it and it's like, what are these 3 sets of tricep extensions and leg extensions going to do for me? But over time, we're talking about the cumulative effect over the course of years of doing your accessory work. That's where it comes into play. or even just months of doing your accessory work. That's where it comes into play. And I know a lot of athletes skip their accessory work, especially powerlifters, and just understanding that those are in your program for a reason. Your coach picks those accessory movements for a reason for you, and that it's important to make sure that you're doing them.
Sì, praticamente lei comunque sottolinea quello che hai detto tu, comunque, che se un allenatore li inserisce nel programma, un motivo c'è, un obiettivo c'è anche per i complementari, che comunque non vanno trattati con meno importanza rispetto ai fondamentali. E con questa lei comunque
deve andare.
Esatto.
Bye Natalie, I love you.
Bye Natalie, I love you.
I love you. Tutta l'Italia gli dice che la ama. Diglielo. Diglielo che tutti gli atleti italiani la amano, tutti.
Not to make you Bryce jealous, but Sonia say that all Italian athletes loves Natalie.
I can share. That's okay.
Okay, McLean. And you? You want muscle? Oh no.
Well, yeah. As far as accessories go, I tend to as I'm approaching the meet. Obviously, I mean, I guess between around 12 weeks out, I try to make sure that my accessories are aimed towards my lifts. I mean, because again, for me, it's about the game plan. If I feel like I'm weaker in one area, I try to make sure my accessories are aimed toward those weaker areas in order to increase, whichever one of the big three that I'm trying to, make better. And during the off season, to kind of, echo what Joanna's saying, like my accessories are aimed towards more balance. So when it's meet specific, I try to make sure my accessories are for meet, meet lifts, and then of course, outside of meets, when I'm, in between meets, I try to make sure that my accessories, which I do every single session, are just more toward balance and just, overall, physical health.
Sì, lui si preoccupa molto dei complementari, cioè di dosare i suoi complementari mano a mano che si avvicina alla competizione. In generale, comunque, il suo approccio è: con il complementare vado a riempire, comunque a sopperire a una sua debolezza, quindi sono complementari mirati che mano a mano verso la competizione vanno via via scemando per lasciare poi spazio alle alzate fondamentali.
Ok, ragazzi, c'è il presidente della federazione italiana che voleva salutarvi. Eccolo qua, Sandro Rossi, is the president of the Federation, National Federation. Say hi. Ciao Sandro, vuoi salutarli?
Sì, hello everybody.
Hello.
Ciao. Ciao Stefano e ciao i due Stefani. Ciao. Ciao Giovanna.
Ciao Sandro.
Ciao Stefano, scusa, puoi chiedere semplicemente una cosa, se già non l'avete chiesta, com'è la situazione dello sport nelle loro nazioni? Se già non l'avete chiesta.
Vai,
so you guys,
e per gli allenamenti, per gli allenamenti nelle palestre, insomma, ecco.
Yeah, the president of the FIPL, the Italian Federation, is asking you how's the training situation as much as coronavirus and stuff like that. Do you have some kind of limitation, or what's the deal over there?
Should I go first again?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
So I live in Ontario, Canada, and our numbers here in the COVID situation are going in the wrong direction right now. So our entire province actually just went into another at least month-long lockdown on December 26th, which means that all gyms are closed. I'm very, very fortunate in that I have a gym in my basement. And I'm still able to train, so I'm very, very fortunate. And there are a lot of people who've been able to get equipment from gyms that have closed. So people still are training. In terms of competitions, Ontario has not had a competition since, I want to say, April. And competitions are closed indefinitely right now. There is a plan to have our nationals which was originally to be in March, hopefully in May, but that remains to be seen depending on what happens. There are really no Canadian Powerlifting Union meets happening right now in Canada because of the COVID situation.
Ok, praticamente Joanna vive in Ontario, in Canada, e dal 26 dicembre hanno comunque indetto un lockdown generale, un po' tipo come il nostro, in cui le palestre sono chiuse. Lei ha la fortuna di avere comunque un home gym e di allenarsi in ogni caso, però a livello nazionale, quindi a livello dell'Ontario, neanche nazionale, a livello regionale, le competizioni sono ufficialmente sospese fino ad aprile, però c'è da vedere anche lì l'evolversi della situazione.
Bryce.
Yeah, we live in Colorado, and the situation has been mixed. It's kind of just whatever the state and the country decide based on caseloads. So in early February, we had gym closures, and so we borrowed some equipment from our local powerlifting gym and set up in our basement, and we're able to train mostly on track. With just changing some accessory movements here and there for quite some time. And now that we're back in gyms, we have to wear masks while we train and, keep the place as clean as possible. But we're still able to train, thankfully. So that's been the compromise for now. Definitely far, far fewer competitions. I would guess somewhere around an 80% reduction in the amount of competitions that we've normally have here in Colorado, and no national competitions at all this entire year. So everything is kind of on hold until things get better.
Ok, Bryce e Natalie vivono in Colorado e quindi già dal primo lockdown a febbraio avevano recuperato dell'attrezzatura per allenarsi a casa, magari in prestito dalle palestre locali, però anche lì da febbraio sono chiuse le palestre, riaprono, chiudono, non sanno un attimo come organizzarsi. Sicuramente l'80% delle competizioni nazionali è già stato perso o annullato, e quindi sono anche loro in attesa di disposizioni.
And McLean?
I live in Texas, which is oh man, this Texas is it's a world of its own. Bryce, I saw you and Jonah kind of shaking like.
You are funny man. Oh my God,
Texas, and so I mean, obviously in the United States, there's a bit of autonomy in terms of each state kind of, they have their own COVID protocol. I mean, to complement what the government has as well. In Texas, refuses to shut down. When the government ordered to shut down, quite a few, back in April, I believe, is when our shutdown started. Everything was shut down, including gyms. I have a full gym in my garage, so I was good to go as far as gyms go. There were a lot of gyms that refused to shut down. People were just kind of sneaking in, and and that's Texas. Texas does what Texas does, and fortunately, the people that I know that chose to do the gym sneaking, they were all safe. They all wore masks. They all trained in masks and all that good stuff until the shutdown was over. Our governor literally, but a couple of weeks ago, vowed that there would be no shutdown, regardless of what the government says. Texas refuses to do a shutdown. So gyms are, for the most part, gyms have been pretty safe. Just people go in, they train with their mask. A lot don't train with masks. But again, I'm in Texas. I'm in the South. There's a lot of anti-maskers. There's a lot of just everything here in Texas. But the one thing that you can bet the bottom dollar on is they refuse to shut down. And so obviously echoing much of North America, COVID cases are rising. And despite those cases rising, a lot of these gyms aren't shutting down. A lot of these, just businesses that, they'll have a lot of people going in and out of them. They just don't shut down. So I don't know that the gyms are going to be shut down in Texas anytime soon. If they do, as far as me and mine, I'm good to go. I have a full gym in my garage. But yeah, it's It's crazy. It's crazy times, man. Corona is one of those things where you have those people that really they follow protocol, they heed the warnings, they do what they're supposed to do, what they're asked to do in order to make sure that you protect your fellow man. And you have those that just like, hey, man, it is what it is, and I'm going to do what I want to do. So, it's sad to say. I mean, that I don't know that the gyms are ever going to shut down again here in Texas. But it's typical Texas as it can be. Like Texas does what Texas does. So, yeah.
Yeah, so basically everything is bigger in Texas besides the coronavirus.
The virus.
We're like, we're in the red zone. Everything's bigger in Texas, including our Defiance. We had
just joking, man.
So,
okay.
Sì, praticamente in Texas invece la situazione è un po' diversa, nel senso che c'è un po' un'atmosfera
goliardica.
No, non tanto goliardica, ma comunque un sacco di palestre restano aperte, un sacco di gente tende a non mettere la maschera, sono anti-Covid, sì, così si può dire, però anche lui si rende conto che se la situazione dovesse peggiorare è un problema che anche in Texas dovranno essere pronti ad affrontare. Lui personalmente ha un'attrezzatura di home gym, quindi non è una cosa che gli cambierebbe comunque dal punto di vista dell'allenamento.
Ok. Diciamo
Grazie.
che in Texas sono un po' più libertini, Sandro.
Molto pericoloso però, molto pericoloso.
Infatti McLean l'ha detto.
Sì. Insomma, mi sembra di capire, ragazzi, se lo volete dire anche ai nostri amici di lingua inglese, che un po' che la situazione è un po' simile, no? Io sono in contatto, poiché sono anche il vicepresidente della Federazione Europea, sono anche in contatto con tutti i miei colleghi in Norvegia, Svezia, Finlandia, Belgio, Francia, e la situazione è veramente molto pesante per quello che riguarda lo sport, e anche in Gran Bretagna è molto pesante. Oggi mi sembra sia stata la giornata peggiore dal punto di vista dei decessi. Speriamo nella campagna di vaccinazione.
Esatto,
Okay.
speriamo in quello. Stefano, traduci questa cosa qua? Così...
Yeah, Sandro was saying that he is, other than the president of the FIPL, the Italian Federation, is also the vice president of the EPF, the European Federation, and he was like confronting with other president. And over here in Europe, the situation is kind of bad, and everyone is trying to do his best to make it better.
Right.
But it's not that simple, so we kind of need all of us to make our part, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Grazie ragazzi. Allora vi lascio. Sonia, io vi saluto ragazzi, vi saluto e vi mando un grande augurio dai vostri amici della Federazione Italiana Powerlifting per un grandissimo 2021, sperando che sia migliore e che ci riporti al più presto in pedana. Auguri a tutti per un ottimo 2021.
Grazie Sandro. Traduci
Vai,
Stefano, così
Yeah.
se ne va in bellezza.
Sandro is saying hi to you and wishing you a very good 2021, and he hopes to see you soon.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Ok.
Grazie.
Grazie Stefano, grazie i due Stefani, grazie ragazzi.
Auguri.
Grazie, ci vediamo
Grazie.
presto.
Un bacio.
Ciao Sonia, ci sentiamo io e te ci sentiamo domani.
Domani, come sempre.
Ciao, auguri
Ciao,
a tutti,
Sandro.
Stefano
Auguri.
Tintori e Stefano Tiraboschi. Tanti auguri
Auguri.
ragazzi, ciao.
Auguri.
Ciao, un abbraccio
Grazie.
forte, speriamo noi di vederci presto al PalaFPL.
Sì,
Ciao.
dai.
Assolutamente.
Ciao.
Assolutamente.
Ciao.
Ciao. Allora,
Ciao.
un'altra domanda la facciamo fare a Diego Milani, ok? La scrive in inglese Diego Milani perché è sterofilo Diego Milani, in quanto anche powerlifter gear, e quindi quando fanno gear sono sterofili. Sto scherzando, Diego. I know Natalie and Bryce competed in equipment, but one has to hold the gas if they have a coat about it. Unfortunately, Natalie is gone, so I have to ask Bryce how they handle the equipment part of train. Quindi la domanda è a Bryce. Bryce.
Well, I've never competed equipped. One time I competed in knee wraps, but that's the most I've ever done. This is well before USA Powerlifting or the IPF or anything like that. I thought that when you compete in powerlifting, you compete in wraps, and so that's what I did. And then I found the raw division and so on. But Natalie spends most of the year training raw, and then I would say in the last 10 weeks before a competition, she starts training in equipment. Usually straps down first and then straps up for squats, similar for deadlift. And then lots of practice in her bench shirt, sometimes to 3-board press and 2-board and so on, closer to a competition. Much closer to competition, we start with, knee wraps and sets of 3, sets of 2, and sets of 1 into competition. But most of the year is still raw. And this, I think, is the case for many equipped powerlifters.
Ok, lui personalmente non ha fatto chissà che carriera da attrezzato, ha fatto un po' di fasce, che in America comunque ci sono federazioni che fanno raw con fasce. Invece Natalie comunque ha una carriera nell'attrezzato molto, molto proficua. Lei personalmente si allena tutto l'anno da raw, per poi entro 10 settimane iniziare a introdurre comunque un po' di allenamento attrezzato con singole, doppie e quant'altro. Però comunque il core del suo allenamento, del suo miglioramento durante l'anno è comunque un allenamento raw.
Ok, quindi lei per lui è raw e continua raw fino a che cosa fa? Delle fasi praticamente di attrezzato. Quindi spero che Diego Milani che questa risposta sia stata esaustiva per lui. Allora, un'altra cosa, altra domanda, questa è generale invece. Avete qualche società sportiva che vi supporta economicamente e soprattutto qual è il ruolo della squadra quando si va in gara? Si sa che è uno sport singolo, ma insomma la squadra fa la differenza. Per loro com'è?
Okay, so a question for all of you guys. Do you have some kind of sponsorship? And as far as competing, how much is important to have a team surround you? Is powerlifting a team sport, or it's like a singular and you go by yourself? Joanna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of the sponsorship question, I'm lucky enough to be sponsored by Inner Strength Products, which is also SBD Canada. So they provide me with all of my powerlifting equipment needs, and they also give performance bonuses for placing at both national and international competitions. In terms of the team question, that's an interesting question for me because I train alone 100% of the time. I train alone in my basement by myself, and I'm quite used to that. However, in a meet setting, I think having a team behind you is extremely important. And whether that be a coach and a handler or a team that you train with, or we have a local team in Hamilton that we support each other at local meets, and obviously internationally, I've been lucky enough to be part of Team Canada on many occasions, and really nothing compares to having your Team Canada teammates behind you. So I've kind of answered that question in several different ways, but I do train alone, but I definitely rely on team support in the meet situation.
Ok, cool. Lei si allena da sola, perché comunque si allena nel suo scantinato, però è comunque sponsorizzata da SBD Canada, che oltre all'attrezzatura e quant'altro le fornisce anche dei bonus per dei piazzamenti sia nazionali che internazionali.
Che bello!
Quindi Esatto, sì, decisamente. Mentre comunque per quanto riguarda i meet, le gare, l'ambiente di squadra, cioè ha comunque bisogno di qualcuno che la supporti. Si allena da sola, ma in gara non va mai da sola.
Ok. Bryce, you?
I have a few sponsors who help pay for flights and hotels to competitions, but you don't really make a living as a competitive powerlifter. So it's really just helping you continue to compete in the sport, not helping you, pay your bills. I'm just as thankful for it, just kind of saying the reality for any young lifter. Do it because you love it, not because you're going to live or make money as a professional powerlifter. And to the team question, I used to train in my basement, and I had a home gym, and I was very reluctant to like go train at a powerlifting gym. I loved the control of, playing my music, setting things up just the way I liked it. And now I train at a powerlifting gym, and I was so stubborn to want to train there, but I love it now. And I can't imagine doing heavy squats without having, spotters behind me and the encouragement of the people at the gym. And so I'm really thankful for the people that we have. And I think you can do powerlifting alone, but there are many reasons why it's nicer with other people.
Yeah. Allora, lui per quanto riguarda ha dei piccoli sponsor che comunque vanno a coprire la parte che riguarda i voli, gli hotel, gli spostamenti per andare alle gare, quindi sottolinea che non è che ci puoi tirar fuori una carriera da professionista dal powerlifting. Per quanto riguarda invece il concetto di squadra, lui si è allenato tanto in un home gym perché ha apprezzato per quanto riguarda il controllo, comunque poter mettere la propria musica, potersi allenare quando si vuole, ma comunque adesso frequenta una powerlifting gym, una palestra per il powerlifting in cui ha del supporto anche solo morale intorno per quando magari deve fare degli squat pesanti, non riesce neanche più a immaginarsi di farseli da solo nel cantinato. Sì. Esatto, ma l'ambiente di squadra conta per lui.
Conta tanto, sì. Quando iniziano i chili a salire è un problema se non hai un po' di supporto morale, ma non solo, anche fisico. McLean!
Yes. Pretty much like both of them said. I have a few sponsors here and there. I mean, they definitely help offset costs in terms of like competition, stuff like that. And if you do well, you get a performance bonus, but it's not like I'm paying bills with sponsorship money. But again, like Bryce said, I mean, you're not necessarily doing it for the money. You don't do. There's almost nothing that you do hobby wise that you go, oh, we get lucrative amount of money for it. So with powerlifting, it's definitely one of those things that you do it because you love it, and if you have to be just maybe just a little bit lucky and good enough, like you might get a little money here and there to help offset a few costs. As far as the community goes, I do subscribe to the whole idea that it does take a village. For the longest, I trained by myself, and I didn't know any other way. That was just solo. And the next thing I know, like when I actually started, training and competing, and having people, in your corner, it adds a whole different element in terms of just the support. It's easy to be, internally motivated and motivate yourself to go out there and do what you want to, what you need to do. But there's an extra bit of value added having some external motivation and some external, I guess noise to, to kind of push you to do your best in terms of performance. So that always helps out. And again, kind of like Bryce pointed out, I mean, there's something about, having to squat a super heavy single or bench something heavy, and doing it's just me by myself. It's just, so either you're going to lift scared or you're going to lift super smart. Either way, your mind is, I want to say it's 90% on the weight and 10% on your safety. And so when you are able to kind of go out and just be straight up athlete and have someone else worrying about your safety, and all you have to do is go and perform, it's a completely different, bit of performance. And so that kind of, bleeds into what Joanna was saying in terms of like she trains by herself, which I know that feeling far too well. But then when you're able to go to an international competition, now your team behind you and have those spotters and everything, you're like, you know what? I can actually let go now, and I can actually put out, 100% of my effort. So I hats off to you, because I do it every now and again, but then I drop into Bryce mode. I'm like, all right, I'm training in this garage by myself. Okay, now I'm above 95%. Now I need somebody behind me, because I'm too old and too scared to be doing this on my own. So I said it. But yeah, so yes, it's a little bit of both, but especially when the weight gets heavier, I definitely want to make sure that I'm around some more people.
Ok. Anche lui sottolinea il fatto che sia qualche sponsor che però non è che gli cambi la vita, cioè gli copre giusto le spese per andare a fare le gare, e comunque anche lui, come Bryce, denota il fatto che in allenamento avere un ambiente stimolante non solo aiuta la performance, ma anche a livello di sicurezza ti permette di uscire un attimo dalla tua comfort zone e andare a spingere davvero senza dover essere preoccupato di non rimanerci sotto, di non farti male e quant'altro, perché così ti abitua poi al contesto da gara, che invece ha parlato di percentuali che sono 90% il peso e 10% la sicurezza, quello a cui devi pensare in allenamento, mentre in gara deve essere 100% effort, 100% impegno, cioè volontà di vincere e di performare.
Esatto. Allora, Stefano Tiraboschi, vuoi fargli ancora delle domande? Così poi siamo quasi addirittura d'arrivo e farò delle domande ultime di rito. E Stefano, anche tu, se vuoi fare delle domande, falle, che siamo addirittura d'arrivo. Vai, Tiraboschi prima.
Allora, io volevo chiedere, visto che ho guardato molto attentamente le loro alzate e anche a massimale hanno delle linee veramente veramente pulite, sono molto molto tecnici, io volevo chiedere, questa loro pulizia è dovuta al fatto che con una certa regolarità sistemano il movimento, lo riprendono, perché hanno ormai un movimento talmente consolidato che non si sposta più di una virgola?
Stefano is asking you about he has been watching you during competition, and all of you kind of showed some lift with very precision. Yeah, your technique is very clean, and he asking you if you think about it, or you kind of have that pattern during training that is so much traveled that when you go in competition, it's like, okay, I don't have to think, I just go and boom. Joanna.
Again.
Yeah.
So
Joanna.
I think that being able to do things without thinking about it from a technique standpoint is really, really important. And part of that process comes from treating every single rep you do in the gym, whether it's your first warm-up or your 1 rep max, as the same every time. Like, you shouldn't treat easy light warm-ups any differently than you treat your 1 rep max. And that way, when you're on the platform and everything's on the line, your body knows exactly what to do. And there really is very little thought that goes into that. That doesn't mean there aren't a few cues that I will keep in my head, 1 or 2 for each lift, that I will say to myself quietly before I go out on the platform, just as little confidence reminders. But your body should be trained to know how to lift the weight exactly the same every time.
Yes. Chiaramente la tecnica fa una differenza sostanziale a quel livello, però non è che arrivi in gara che devi pensare particolarmente ad ogni dettaglio del tuo movimento. Semplicemente con l'approccio che hai in allenamento, ovvero che ogni ripetizione la affronti come se fosse l'alzata che farai in gara, anche le sessioni più leggere, cominci a costruire un pattern motorio solido, in cui comunque in gara dovrai pensare a qualche dettaglio, ma non dovrà essere che devi ragionarla su cosa devi fare durante la gara. E quindi sì, è molto importante.
Sei un massimale, anche se non sei lì e guardi bene proprio al centimetro, sarà forse è meglio spingere in quel caso. Bryce.
I really don't have a whole lot to add on top of what Joanna said, besides the fact that you want your training to be where you practice your technique so that by the time you get to competition, you just focus on performance and lifting and not have to think about technique. So keep in the few things you need to hear to perform well, and otherwise I have nothing else to say.
È sostanzialmente d'accordo, nel senso che l'approccio è lo stesso, bisogna arrivare in gara con le idee chiare. Cioè, non si tira fuori il coniglio dal cilindro. Esatto.
McLean.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Repetition is the key to mastery.
Yeah.
I mean, so you want to repeat that same technique over and over and over in training. I mean, and it it should translate right to the platform. I mean, and that's it. And your execution really is going to be based on that training that you put in. So again, like Joanna said, I mean, she laid the groundwork for it all. Like that, your repetition in training is going to be the key to your mastery of that particular lift, and of course, it's going to lead into your performance on the platform, like Bryce said.
Sì, quindi anche per lui è la stessa cosa di loro. Quando si arriva in gara bisogna spingere, non devi pensare più a dover avere una perfezione nel gesto, ma un miglioramento sul massimale. Quindi la perfezione, o quantomeno non definirla perfezione, ma un avvicinamento a quello, lo fai in allenamento. Giusto, Stefano?
Esatto.
Ok. Allora, Stefano Tintori, scusami, vuoi fare una domanda?
Sì,
Dai.
volentieri.
Ma vai,
Yeah, so that's my personal question. It's probably towards Bryce and McLean as far as coaching. And I was really interested in that part that you said, Bryce, that you kind of specialist to separate the coaching part from your personal training and stuff like that. What kind of suggestion can you make about it? Because lately, actually, I train a lot of people as far as strength and conditioning and powerlifting.
Right.
And lately, I've been kind of struggling with my personal training because of spending so much time in the gym, or right now even at home with coronavirus and stuff like that, training people. How do you keep yourself so motivated during the tough time? Because when you're motivated, it's easy to train, but it's the hard part comes when you're not motivated.
Absolutely.
What's your suggestion?
Ok, prima di andare avanti, traducilo anche per la plebe, grazie.
Un approfondimento sul discorso che hanno fatto prima, su come riescono da allenatori a separare la parte dell'allenatore da quella dell'atleta e riuscire a coniugare gli allenamenti. Yeah.
Ok, Joanna no, perché non fa l'allenatrice, giusto? Quindi Bryce.
So I think first off, just like you set aside maybe time for lunch, that you need to set aside time for your training that you always have, so whatever time you train, that's always the time you train, and don't let anything else in your day as far as coaching responsibilities bleed into that time. So no checking your email while you're training, no answering updates from athletes or anything like that. Just have that be separate. Just respect the boundary of your training time. And part of that is about communicating with your athletes too, and saying, hey, during this time, this is when I'll be training. So I'll get back to you before or after, but not during. And that way you have a little bit of that separation, I think. Besides that, as for the motivation, I don't think you should be experiencing drops of motivation because of coaching. But I think one thing that I see some coaches do is they let the success or failure of athletes feel like their success or failure as a coach. Absolutely. So if your athlete does well, you feel good. If your athlete does bad, you feel bad, and you let it affect the rest of your life. And it's okay to have a little bit of that. You want to relate with your athlete and empathize with them, but there has to be a boundary where you still get to be an athlete yourself, even as you're a coach for other people.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. What about you, Alex?
Puoi tradurre tutto?
Yeah, wait, I'll translate before.
Translating.
Sì, sostanzialmente ha consigliato di riuscire a tenere un'abitudine anche a livello di orari in cui ci sono dei momenti che tu ti alleni indipendentemente da quello che devi fare per lavoro. Quindi organizzare la tua settimana con dei momenti lavorativi, dei momenti personali per allenarti che sono quelli e non variano in base alle esigenze degli atleti che alleni. E un'altra cosa che ha sottolineato, di non farsi trascinare, tra virgolette, emotivamente dai successi o i fallimenti dei propri atleti, perché comunque è una situazione a sé.
Guarda, quella è una cosa che purtroppo anch'io non riesco, a volte anche con i miei ragazzi, non riesco a scinderla. Diventa umanamente terribile per me. È come un mio fallimento, quindi vabbè, se lo vuoi dire questo, che è per me questa cosa qua, mi interessa dirgliela. Se lo vuoi dire...
Yes, Bryce, Sonia was telling that for her, to separate from herself from her athletes' failures on success is very hardful, and she's struggling to mitigate that feeling for herself.
Yeah, you just have to be a cold Russian.
Okay, so Elias, what's your point?
Oh, Bryce. Okay, so all right. So what I think that I think that a lot of it really, I think to myself, it's going to be hard for you to take care of other people if you can't take care of yourself. Not saying that you have to be absolutely selfish, but you have to take that time at some point to prioritize your time in order to make sure that you get that time in. Because I feel like, I mean, we as human beings, we're very, I guess, goal oriented. And if your goal for today is to make sure that you get your training in, like Bryce said, you have to prioritize that time. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to, I mean, if we're all human beings and people understand the word no, while they may not want to hear the word no, it's okay. Like, hey, listen, I have this training time that I have to, get in, because that's your time. That might be the only hour to 2 hours of your day that you can devote to yourself in order to get that training in. But again, a lot of this lifting is therapeutic. So if you can't get your therapy in on that particular day, how are you going to be mentally ready to help other people? So, I mean, for me, that's a huge part of it. And of course, like Bryce said, there's going to be a great deal of empathy in terms of being a coach. That's one of the greatest parts about being a coach and coaching other people is because you do love people and you do care about their feelings and you do care about their successes and their failures. So you do tend to take on a little bit of that, that success and failure, what have you. But you want to make sure, again, that you understand it. I mean, just like there are people, you're a person, and I mean, you're going to have your ups and downs, but, there has to be a point where you have to understand, like, listen, their failures aren't your failure, especially as a coach, if you're doing the best you can to put them in the best position for success. I mean, at the end of the day, that's your number one priority, is to put your athletes in the best, the best situation for them to find as much success as possible, their best version that they can bring to the table. And if they're able to do that, that's awesome. If they're not able to do that, that's fine. You're a coach. So your job is to go back and let's figure out a better way to get them, to that next step. It's not always going to be, they're not always going to have a personal best. They're not always going to have a 9-for-9 meet, and that's okay. The best part of being a coach is that you have the opportunity to go back and, do maybe change some things here and there to put them in a better position. And you learn more as a coach on, what your limitations are or what you're able to do. That's, for me, I feel like it's a puzzle. And not all puzzle pieces are going to fit the same. So you have to figure out the best combination. But again, you can't always take on, those successes and failures. But, I mean, you're a human being. I mean, your heart's in it, your mind's in it, your soul and your spirit is into them doing well. And then when they don't, you're supposed to feel a little bit bad. But again, like Bryce said, you got to kind of be a cold-hearted Russian a little bit and make sure that you take care of yourself, take care of your mental capacity, and really take care of your own personal peace to make sure that you're, in a better mental state for the next round. Because again, a lot of times they don't just depend on you for the training and for the programming. Sometimes they depend on you for that, that mental aspect. So you might, they might need, some encouraging words. And if you don't have that encouragement in your heart, how are you going to pass it on to somebody? So I think it's very, very important to make sure that you take care of your mental space, your physical space, and your prioritized time in order to make sure that you're in the best mental state to help other people. But again, that's how I approach it. I'm not saying that's how everyone should approach it, but a big thing is going to be making sure that you take care of yourself so that you can take care of other people.
Yeah, thank you. Anche lui sostanzialmente d'accordo con Bryce sul discorso del prendersi il proprio spazio. Inoltre aggiunge che prendersi il proprio spazio anche a livello di mentale da allenatore, perché comunque l'allenamento lo reputa comunque una sorta di processo terapeutico, ti fa stare meglio, ti fa vedere le cose meglio, può solo portare miglioramenti non solo alla tua condizione fisica, ma soprattutto alla tua condizione mentale da allenatore, e quindi anche in competizione avere un approccio positivo, essere sul pezzo dal punto di vista mentale è quello che fa la differenza di un allenatore, perché se vai in gara con un allenatore che è già col morale sottoterra, difficilmente ci tiri fuori qualcosa dall'atleta in quella gara lì. Quindi lo ritiene proprio un aspetto. Esatto.
Allora, ultima domanda, la farò io, ultima domanda, poi dopo ci salutiamo, vi dirò ancora qualche cosa. Volevo chiedere a loro cosa si sentono di dire ai ragazzi giovani italiani che iniziano da poco a fare il powerlifting, che cosa si sentono di dire a loro.
Okay, so last question for all of you. What's your advice for Italian or international young beginners that approach to powerlifting?
Okay, well, I might as well start again.
Yes, you.
So I think the best advice that anyone ever gave me was that, lifting is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and that we all want to get better really fast at the beginning, and we all set lofty goals, and it's fine to set lofty goals, but you have to realize that it takes a lot longer than you think to reach some of those goals, and that you have to be in it for the long run and not for the short haul, or you'll just end up disappointed. I think that's the best advice that I can give, is you have to enjoy it, and you have to be in it for the long haul with all the ups and all the downs.
Ok, il suo consiglio è semplicemente di approcciare questo sport come se fosse una maratona e non uno sprint, perché comunque richiede molto tempo per raggiungere i miglioramenti, per raggiungere gli obiettivi, niente viene tutto subito, e quindi bisogna munirsi di questa mentalità un attimo del maratoneta.
Ok, quindi ci vuole tempo e pazienza. Bryce.
I'm making a list. I think I'm done. All right.
That is Bryce to a T. Let's go, bro.
Especially these days with social media, it's important to be very cautious of social comparison and comparing yourself with people who are better than you. Make sure that you enjoy this. Powerlifting is supposed to be fun. It's a sport. It's not a job. So make sure you find ways to enjoy it. Like Joanna said, it's hard work. So, put in small bits of effort over a very long time and you'll be rewarded. Early on, I think it's important to focus on muscle building a lot. So lots of bodybuilding type work in addition to some of your powerlifting. Avoid extremes in much of anything. So don't do super high frequency, super high intensity, super high volume. Just, no max width sumo deadlifting, max stand squatting. Just no extremes. If you feel pain, listen to that and do something rather than ignoring it. Try not to focus on weight classes early on and learn as much as you can.
Good Lord.
Okay.
You make that list that quick?
It's impressive. I'm impressed.
Allora, la sua lista che ha stilato per questa particolare occasione prevede comunque innanzitutto la chiamata coscienza competitiva, nel senso che è giusto guardare gli altri, è giusto farsi un'immagine di dove si è a livello agonistico, ma comunque bisogna lavorare per se stessi e per il divertimento di farlo, perché comunque non sarà mai uno sport che ti dà da vivere, almeno per ora non lo è, e quindi bisogna prenderlo col giusto approccio, col giusto divertimento. Per quanto riguarda l'allenamento, lui consiglia di evitare gli estremi, per quanto riguarda sia l'intensità che la frequenza che il volume, trovare un giusto equilibrio che piano piano costruisca il proprio essere atleta.
Ok. McLean.
Oh man. I have a few, and it's nothing like super crazy. I will say, for me, number one is obviously, like I think they both mentioned, you've got to have fun. This is supposed to be fun. So for me, my number one priority would be to make sure that you have a lot of fun when you're doing it. If it's not fun, why are you doing it? Yeah. Number two, I would definitely say know your history. If you don't know who the one of the best lifters in Italian powerlifting history is, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Know your history, know who the greats are, know who are the people that laid the foundation for your federation. That's for me. That's those are the main two things that I try to do when I started doing this sport. And I mean, if you don't know your history, you're kind of doing it. You're doing it a disservice. So know your history, know who your top lifters are, and if they're still around, get to know them. Because there's a lot of knowledge that can be passed on that can help you as a lifter. Powerlifting is a sport where we still have an opportunity to talk to a lot of our Hall of Famers, a lot of our Supermen, a lot of our superheroes that we look up to that are still around. So use that knowledge, allow it to be passed on to you. It's awesome. Kind of how Bryce talked about the social media. It's awesome to have the social media, but I guarantee you a lot of these guys that have 300, 400,000 followers, that's awesome, but they may have 5 or 6 meets to their name, and that's it. There's not a lot of knowledge that can be passed on from those guys, but there's tons of knowledge that can be passed on from a lot of those older lifters that have 20, 30 years of meets under their belt that have laid the foundation for you. So obviously, number one, have fun. Number two, know your history. Number three, honestly, understand that recovery is your friend. Recovery is your friend. You don't have to go hard every single day in the gym. Recovery is going to help you. So for me, those are the three things: have fun, know your history, and really prioritize your recovery. Don't be afraid to take a day off. It's okay. You're not going to lose any strength if you actually take time to recover, because that's where you're going to actually acquire the gains. It's not going to be from tearing down in the gym. At some point, you're going to have to rebuild, and you're not going to rebuild tearing down. At some point, you're going to have to get that recovery in order for your body to rebuild and heal itself, so that you get back in the gym and grind a little bit more. So yeah, those would be my three.
Ok.
Anche lui sottolinea il fatto che la parte essenziale deve essere il divertimento. Cioè, se non ti diverte quello che stai facendo, probabilmente non è la cosa giusta da fare. Inoltre lui sottolinea anche il fatto che bisogna conoscere la storia della propria federazione, del contesto internazionale, cioè comunque conoscere chi è arrivato prima di te, cosa ha fatto e che fondamenta ha lasciato
E infatti puoi dire che il senso delle mie live streaming, che sono nate prima a livello nazionale, quindi imparare a conoscere la propria nazione sia come sport che come federazione, adesso sono sbarcate a livello internazionale proprio per questo senso, se glielo puoi dire. Ecco il senso delle live.
Yeah, Sonia is pointing out of your concept of history of powerlifting. I mean, knowing who's been before us back in the day, saying that her blog, her live stream started as a national ground to kind of share the word about Italian lifter.
Right.
And then kind of spread in the international field with the main goal of spreading the word and the knowledge of the lifters around the world.
Absolutely.
ok?
Yeah.
Va bene,
Sì,
allora, dimmi Stefano, scusa.
Manca il resto della risposta che ve lo raccontiamo.
Infatti, non volevo chiudere, assolutamente. Vai,
Anche a
Stefano.
livello di social media è vero che ci sono tanti atleti con tanti follower, però comunque la differenza la fa con l'approccio che hai con quello che c'è stato prima di te. Lui è molto indirizzato sulla storia a livello nazionale e internazionale, e infine sottolinea quanto un aspetto sottovalutato ma estremamente importante sia il recupero, perché comunque riuscire a recuperare nella maniera corretta non è una perdita di tempo, ma anzi ti mette in condizioni poi di riuscire a spingere dopo aver recuperato.
Esatto, fai di più, sei più efficiente. Ok, allora io vi volevo salutare, la live finisce qua, vi volevo fare gli auguri di un anno, speriamo migliore di questo, Spero di vedervi di nuovo tutti anche in pedana a fare grandi chili, se lo vuoi già tradurre.
Yeah, Sonia, we are done basically, and Sonia is greeting you, wishing you a much better year in 2021. And she hope we can see you soon. Detto che non è tanto difficile fare meglio.
Esatto, basta veramente poco, quindi speriamo in un anno chiaramente migliore di questo, e quindi saluto say thanks Brian, thank you Brian Lewis,
it's Bryce, basically, it's Bryce.
Bryce. Sorry. And Joanna, I'm tired. Sorry.
But Bryce, no matter, because we know each other for so long, and she always misspelled my last name. So
Yes. Non lo tradurre sempre tutti i miei errori, maledetto. And L.S. McLean.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Ok, un bacio. E niente, ci vediamo poi per il prossimo live streaming con altri atleti che arriveranno anche dal Brasile. Io vi voglio bene, good luck, I love you so much, and
thank you
everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. I'm crazy.